What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the New York Giants are currently practicing right now as we record this day 3 of training camp. And through the first 2 days, one player has stood out more than anybody else, and that is Darren Waller. He's been reportedly unguardable, he's been breaking ankles, he's been making tough receptions downfield. He's been a player that the Giants defense just can't handle so far through the first 2 days of training camp, and from what I'm reading on Twitter, it's continuing into today. He is going crazy, but he's not the only one. Tight end Daniel Bellinger is also playing some damn good football. He showed up to OTAs and training camp jacked. He's bigger now. He's got huge, massive arms. He looks like a miniature version of the Incredible Hulk to me. So, Daniel Bellinger, a player that I'm really excited about as he enters his second season in the NFL. And now he's going to be combining with Darren Waller as those two play tight end, receiver, a little bit of a mix from Darren Waller, but two tight ends that can play a really, really good amount of minutes for this Giants team and really put some points on the board. So we're excited about it. We're going to go ahead and discuss today how the Giants are building this two-headed tight end monster on their offense. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on this two-headed monster?
I'm doing great, and this morning I wrote an article about Waller specifically. Now, we talked about him a bit yesterday. We've talked about him throughout the offseason, really. But this is the first opportunity that we've gotten to see Darren Waller in action during training camp. I mean, there are some people saying that they took him off the field because Daniel Jones couldn't stop targeting him. He was just open so much. Tell me that doesn't make you happy. Tell me that doesn't make you excited for what Darren Waller represents. Joe Shane deserves a freaking medal for trading a third-round pick that we got for Kadarius Toney, who just had knee surgery and is not going to be playing for the first couple weeks probably. Who knows if he'll even play. They're comparing his injury to Todd Gurley's, which ended his career. So, you're looking at what the Giants got in return. That's a tight end who could produce WR1 numbers if he stays healthy. Now, he looks healthy. He says he's healthy. He looks rejuvenated and revitalized with this Giants team, found another home. And personally, I feel like we may have struck gold on this. He's a $4 million cap, and I'm going to walk you through his financial kind of situation over the next couple of years and what the Giants could do if he does perform really well. But if he doesn't perform well, you have a little bit of an option here. So, I'll break that down right now for you guys so that way you have an idea of really what we have to look for in the future with Darren Waller, good and bad. So Waller comes into this upcoming season hoping to get WR1 production at a $4 million cap hit. If he manages to produce that level, for what we gave, it's going to look like one of the most genius moves we've seen from a GM in recent memory, specifically on the Giants. Finding that level of talent, finding a guy that can pair with Daniel Jones and offer that type of athleticism, at that cap hit, without it being a rookie receiver, without it being like a Garrett Wilson or a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson, to go out and find a veteran that's been in the league for 7 years, to offer you that much at that minimal of a cap hit is tremendous. It's almost unprecedented to find that level of value. Now, it hasn't happened yet, I want to add, but he's 31 years old. In fact, he's not even 31 years old yet. He's getting there. Travis Kelce's 34. Age is not a concern for me with Darren Waller right now. That's not something I'm looking at and saying, oh, he's getting older. He's not going to produce as well. He's very much capable. Tight ends, traditionally, guys like that athletic profile, can do a lot more for a lot longer. Now, the financial implications of his contract after this upcoming season at a $4 million cap hit, 3 years, $51 million. He has a salary hit, so he has a cap hit. This is how much the Giants have to pay him next year, 2024 season, $14 million. So it's up from $4 million to $14 million. Now, it's a $15 million cap hit in 2025 and a $17 million cap hit in 2027. Now, if the Giants decide, we don't really want Waller anymore after this year, he was a little injured, didn't really play as well as he wanted to, they can move on with a $7.8 million dead money hit, take on the dead money, move on, take whatever financial allocations they were going to give to him and give it to somebody else, whether it's drafting a rookie in the first round, whether it's consuming another contract via trade like the Bills did with Stephon Diggs. Shane and Dable were there for that. So you see the Giants have options. They could stick with Waller, keep paying him. $14 million for a guy with that level of production, sign me the hell up. Don't even think about it twice. You keep Waller at $14 million. $15 million, keep him. $17 million, maybe you try to move on at that point if the guarantees are still low, because that's a little bit much and he's going to be like 34 years old. So they have options here, and a high-end receiver, they're making $20+ million these days. Look at OBJ's getting paid, and he's coming off 2 ACL tears. Right now, the Giants have options, and they have the capability to cash in at a really good player at a really low cost this season. So, Anthony, looking at the financial implications of this contract coming up, how do you feel about Darren Waller right now if he can produce at that high level? Are you keeping him $14-15 million over the next 2 years beyond the 2023 season? I feel like that's a steal if he's able to produce at the level we know he can.
Yeah, if he's able to produce, but I don't think you could say what we're going to do with Darren Waller in the future until we see what we have from him this season. It's tough to tell. Now, if he goes out there and he receives for over 1,000 yards, yeah, you want to keep him back at that price point. But then again, if he goes for 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, and he really is a WR1, he might walk into next offseason asking for a pay raise. So who knows? Right now, I do love this contract. I love the prospects of it. The way you broke it down was great, Alex. And yes, it increases in cap hit over the next few years, but it's a very flexible deal. They can get out of it really easily if they need to, but they don't want to. They want him to produce at that high level. And if he does, like I said, he could potentially ask for a pay raise and look for a higher salary to kind of be more in line with those top wide receivers in the NFL. Or maybe he stays on the salary and the Giants are really happy about it and better off for it, because this is just a very affordable deal. As you mentioned, this year, $4 million cap hit. I mean, name me another wide receiver who's going to go for over 1,000 years this season, or 1,000 yards this season at a $4 million cap hit that's not a rookie or on a rookie contract, as you mentioned, Alex. So there's really like the sky is the limit on this deal. This is one of the best contracts in football. I think when the Giants inherited this contract, that's how they looked at it, and that's why they went ahead and made this deal for Darren Waller. They didn't give up much, just the 100th overall pick in the draft. That's really not a whole lot to give up for a guy who can be a 1,000-yard receiver for a team, and especially when you look at the way Darren Waller is going to be utilized. This is a guy who's just not going to be your inline tight end. We'll talk about Daniel Bellinger in just a second here, because he's probably going to be the team's inline tight end, but Waller is really going to line up probably more as a wide receiver or a slot receiver than an inline tight end. I probably would guess that he's going to play at least 60% of his snaps in the slot this season. And those jumbo slots are so dynamic. The top players in the NFL that can line up in the slot like that, have that big speed and that big height, big frame, those guys are really dynamic. Darren Waller is going to look like probably the best receiver that Daniel Jones will ever play with if he can produce at the level that we expect him to. So Waller, 6'6". If you look at him in those clips at training camp, Alex, I don't know if you've seen this, the guy is towering over every single defensive back. Like, it is not an exaggeration that he is a big man, that he really is a 6'6" wide receiver running out there who's faster than everybody. Like, it is very visible that he is much bigger than all of his opponents on the Giants defense. And it's been fun to watch all those clips, see him score those touchdowns, and just shake himself wide open. He has so much speed for a guy his size, and you can just do so much with a weapon like this. And if there's one thing that I do trust in, I trust in Brian Daboll and his offensive scheme. And I know that he's going to get the most out of Darren Waller. Now, tying back into the contract conversation, Alex, there is one key variable here for Darren Waller, and it'll determine whether or not this trade was ever worth it and whether or not this contract is worth it. And that is health, right? We have to see this guy stay healthy. Now, he talked earlier in the offseason when he did his intro press conference with the Giants, and he said that the last few years, his offseason preparation had him burnt out too early on in the regular season, and that was ultimately causing his injuries, causing his body to break down sooner. He said that he changed his preparation this offseason. He's going to hopefully go into the regular season much healthier, much clearer from, any wear and tear throughout the training camp period. He said that he's really changed his routine, and that should hopefully lead to a healthier season. But it needs to. If this is going to be a justifiable move for the Giants, if they're going to pay him this money, again, it's not a lot in comparison to top wide receivers, but it's still a lot of money, $15 million in next year. He's going to have to stay healthy. And that really is the big variable here for Darren Waller, because over the last 2 seasons, he's missed a lot of time. He's missed a lot of time with injuries. 2 seasons prior, he was stellar, and he went for 1,100 yards back-to-back years. He was a Pro Bowl player. But health is the key factor for Darren Waller. If he's not able to stay healthy, ultimately this whole deal is not going to be looked upon very fondly by Giants fans. But if he does stay healthy and he plays the way that he's playing in training camp right now, he plays the way that we've seen him play during his prime with the Las Vegas Raiders, well, the Giants are going to be getting a real bargain here. So health is the key factor, Alex. And I don't know, I guess, what are your thoughts on the health of Darren Waller? And when you look at this long-term contract, as you just mentioned, this guy's got to stay healthy, right? Like, that is the number one factor to determining whether or not he's going to be a star with the Giants.
I mean, yeah, we know this though. Like we know that health is the predominant variable in the sense that if he stays healthy, he is going to produce. That's the way it's always been for Darren Waller. When he is healthy, he is elite. When he is injured, he is injured. But like you said, he knows what caused those injuries. And the Giants replacing the turf, taking some big steps forward in modernizing their entire system, we can assume that they have a lock on like what to do with specific players and, not burning these guys out. Now, here's the thing that I'll throw in there. The Giants don't have their bye week until week 12 this year. That is a long ass time. That is a ridiculous amount of time that the Giants are going to have to be stepping on the gas, trying to pick up wins. They're going to be exhausted. They're going to be bruised. They're going to be battered. Can Darren Waller fight through those final games there for that week off? Like, that's the question that we have to ask ourselves. It's going to be about, handing the load to different players. Everyone's got to step up. You know what I mean? Everyone's got to do their fair share. Sterling Shepard, got to do their fair share. Cole Beasley, if he makes the roster, got to produce. Saquon Barkley, Eric Gray, the backups, the guys that you don't expect, Isaiah Hodgins, we expect big things from him. Everyone's got to step up and produce, and it takes a lot of pressure off of everybody else, and it keeps everybody healthy, right? Those are the primary things to consider here. With that being said, Daniel Bellinger's impact on Darren Waller and vice versa is something that we want to discuss, because that duo right there, you're looking at 12 personnel, you're looking at having those two tight ends on the field at the same time, is going to be beautiful, guys. It's going to be it's going to be art. It's going to be Leonardo da Vinci on the freaking canvas, making sure these guys look like the part. Daniel Bellinger is one of the best blockers on our team. He is a superb run blocker. He hasn't dropped a single passing count. It's 2 days in. Again, we'll take it with a grain of salt, but we knew this coming from San Diego State. He has ridiculous hands. He's underrated as an athlete. He can do everything you want. He is the perfect inline tight end for what the Giants need. Again, another third-round pick. The Giants invested 2 third-round picks and got Darren Waller and Daniel Bellinger, overturning a really weak unit into one of their strengths. That's pretty damn impressive if you ask me. Having that duo there, you said it before, Darren Waller, we're going to see him play in the slot maybe 60+%. We're going to see him play on the boundary maybe about 20%. He may only play in line 10 to 15% of his snaps, and that's exactly how I prefer it, because Darren Waller is a freak athlete as a receiver, not as a blocker. If they're going to use him in line, it's going to be because they want delayed routes. They want him doing stuff in the passing game, kind of like they did with Kelsey, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do stuff like that, but it's going to open up opportunities for Bellinger, who actually is in line. Waller's in the jumbo, and you can't guard Waller if you're a cornerback. If you're Darnay Holmes, if you're Cordell Flott, he is too big. He's way too big. If you just put that ball where the cornerback can't get it, he is going to catch it. He is going to get after that ball. The catch radius is ridiculous, and then you have Bellinger, who's going up against linebackers now, and he's going to sauce it. He's going to kill them. He's going to destroy them. Bellinger is a very good receiver, guys. He's a perfect security blanket for what Daniel Jones needs. Daniel Jones loves to zip those passes in at 100 miles an hour. You remember Evan Ingram dropping those passes every single week. Bounce off his hand to an interception. Bounce off his hands over here. Bounce off his hands over there. Daniel Bellinger's not going to let that ball bounce off his hands. He's going to freaking haul in that 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and he's going to get that first down. He's going to collect it, and we're going to keep moving the chains. That's what I expect. Bellinger's going to be a tremendous security blanket for this Giants offense with a little bit more upside that we haven't seen just yet. He's a sophomore, for goodness sake. And Waller's going to be your explosive playmaker. They're going to attack the seams, attack the boundary, get into the flats, crossing concepts. He's going to do it all for you. The route running is there. The speed is there. The catch radius is there. The physicality is there. I'm pretty damn excited. And, what are you thinking about this duo of Bellinger and Darren Waller as a kind of a dynamic duo here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really dynamic, and I'll say about Bellinger, according to the reports that we've seen from training camp, he's been, quote, catching everything. Like, he hasn't dropped a single pass. Everything that's come his way, he's snagging it. And, reportedly, he's looking faster than he did last year. Looks like maybe he picked up some speed, got a little bit more agile. And I think that's a big deal, because I already thought that Daniel Bellinger was pretty agile, pretty athletic for an inline tight end last year. I mean, if you think back to that one rushing touchdown that he had, I think that was against Green Bay. That was an incredible play, and that took a lot of athleticism. You don't see many tight ends in the NFL that can make a play like that. For what it's worth, also, just while we're on that point, for that play specifically, you bet your ass we're going to see Darren Waller run that play a few times this season, and he's going to take it in for 6. You can guarantee that. So I'm excited for that, because they had that play in the playbook for Darren Waller before Darren Waller was here, is like how it feels, because Daniel Bellinger ran that play, but you just have to love the prospects of Darren Waller running that play with the amount of athleticism and tackle breaking ability that he has. But again, Daniel Bellinger, way more athletic than people like to give him credit for, in my opinion. And also, he's reportedly faster. He got quicker this offseason. We know that he got stronger. You just look at the pictures of him. The dude is insanely jacked right now. And I think that all of these things combined, getting faster, getting stronger, that's really the difference between being a good player throughout your NFL career and taking that step from being a good rookie to a great player in your second season. This work that he's done this offseason, and for what it's worth, a little off topic, same thing for Evan Neal. He's put in some hard work. He lost 10 to 15 pounds this offseason, added a bunch of muscle. We know that he changed his stance. I'm really excited about those two second-year players in particular. They might be the two guys that have me the most excited out of that last draft class from last year, minus Kayvon Thibodeau. We're all excited about him. But you're looking at Evan Neal losing that weight, getting ready for this upcoming season, and then you're seeing similar things from Daniel Bellinger, right? He's adding on muscle, he's getting faster, and really just, I think the addition of Darren Waller is only going to open things up and make Daniel Bellinger a better player. Now, when we traded for Darren Waller, a lot of fans said, well, what's this going to mean for Daniel Bellinger? Is he going to play anymore? Is he just going to be a backup? No, he's still going to be on the field a lot. If you look back at the stats, Daniel Jones loves to play with 12 personnel. For some reason, he's just far more comfortable when two tight ends are on the field. And now the Giants have a tight end that's really just a Swiss Army knife in Darren Waller. He can play all over the place. And then they do have their traditional tight end with Daniel Bellinger. But the way that this offense is going to be set up here with those two tight ends, Daniel Jones is always going to have a built-in high-low read. You know, the high receiver is almost always going to be Darren Waller going downfield. And if that's not there, you just take the low read and you dump it off to Daniel Bellinger. And Bellinger has more than enough speed to turn upfield and pick up some extra yards. And he does have like the most reliable hands. I think he had 0 drops in college, if I remember correctly. And last year he only had 1 or 2 drops. And also just looking back on Bellinger's rookie season, it's really impressive that he was able to finish out the year as strongly as he did, score that touchdown in the postseason, considering he only lost 4 weeks of his season to a really massive injury. You know, having that orbital fracture, he was only on the sideline for 4 weeks. I was looking at that stat earlier today. I'm like, dude, if I had an orbital fracture, I don't know what I would do with my life forever. 4 weeks and he's just back on the football field bashing heads with players again. Really impressive. He's like your classic New York Giants tight end. You know, your bully baller who is fine smashing his head in. He'll get injured. He just goes right back on the field. Reminds me of like when Jeremy Shockey had his helmet come off on that one play. He just kept running, picked up the first down on like 3rd and 15. He just didn't care. That's what I think of when I look at Daniel Bellinger, that rookie season that he had, fighting through that injury, getting back on the field, and just being a bully baller out there. And another factor that we haven't really touched on too much in this episode, Alex, how about the run blocking and pass blocking ability of Daniel Bellinger? Because he's a damn good blocker, you know, and that's a big deal when you're talking about Evan Neal going into his second season. He wants to take a big step forward, but he still needs some help. He's still only in his second season. You know, he's going to have some growing pains as a sophomore in the NFL. But Daniel Bellinger lining up next to him, you have him right there to chip, help him out, help in the running game as well. Bellinger's a damn good blocker. And now you don't have to have Darren Waller be that blocker because you just throw him in the jumbo slot and you can just have Daniel Bellinger be a really good inline tight end who blocks for you. So I think that's a really underrated aspect of Bellinger's game, Alex. And when you're looking at the way that this Giants offense wants to maneuver, they want to run the ball, they want to get Saquon Barkley involved, but they need their offensive line to step up this year. And I think that Daniel Bellinger plays a huge part in that. He's almost an extension of the offensive line for a lot of these running plays that they're going to put out there. So, Alex, when you're looking at that factor of Daniel Bellinger's game, you have to think that that just makes him a far more valuable player than he would be if he was just a normal security blanket in an offense.
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, I think when you're looking at what Daniel Bellinger is capable of doing, a lot of the pressure was just taken off of him. You know what I mean? Asking him to be the primary receiving tight end, he doesn't have to be that anymore. All he has to do, develop, block well, and everything else is a bonus. I think that's kind of what we're looking at Daniel Bellinger now. Like, block really well, you know, be a good teammate, do all those things. Anything you do in the receiving game is just a bonus. It's just extra. And that's kind of plays into the entire point I made earlier, that gauntlet of 12 games leading up to the bye week. You need guys like Bellinger to step up, take the pressure off of Waller, become a playmaker, make some big moments happen, score touchdowns, take some of those big hits so Waller doesn't have to, block well, establish the run, you know, set up those blocks for Saquon Barkley, Eric Gray, whoever the hell's playing running back, Daniel Bellinger on those design quarterback runs. This is going to be an offense that every single person has to do their job. In the past, how many guys just didn't do their job? Like, how many times did we see a guy whiff a block? How many times did we see a receiver drop a pass? How many times did we see, an offensive lineman just literally get spun around? Everyone has to do their job, and this offense will operate at a very high level. We have the talent for it to be great. Waller is an elite talent. Saquon is an elite talent. Andrew Thomas is an elite talent. Paris Campbell's got 4.3 speed. Jalen Hyatt's got some amazing game speed. Wan'Dale Robinson, one of the quickest guys on our team. Shepard's an experienced veteran that has, we know what he can do when he's healthy. Darius Slayton's one of the fastest guys on our team. Isaiah Hodgins is a promising young budding talent. Daniel Jones can run the football. He's probably the best Caucasian running back and running quarterback in the NFL, aside from Josh Allen. I feel like right now you're looking at an offense that has a ton of really great pieces. It just has to come together. Everyone's just got to play well. And the one player that really stands out to me, Evan Neal. He turns it around. He lost 10 to 15 pounds. I don't know if you guys heard that. He lost 10 to 15 pounds. And that, to me, says he's going to be more agile, more athletic, more quick, getting out of his stance, the flexibility that he didn't have last year to get out of his stance. The reaction timing's going to be better. I ultimately think that if he turns it around, John Michael Schmitz, too, rookie center, if he plays well, you're going to have a really good offense that it's going to look like a different team, guys. It's going to look like a different team. We were top 5 in touchdown conversion rate this past season, and that's with a roster that was in shambles. If you just get to the red zone more, maintain a top 10 conversion rate, this offense is going to keep our defense healthy. This offense is going to keep our defense off the freaking field, and we're going to win some of those late games. We're going to win some games in the fourth quarter, and I'm really excited because, when you have talents like Waller, all it takes is one moment. All it takes is one play, and suddenly you're right back in a game. We no longer have to rely on Saquon Barkley to be that home run hitter. We have a couple of those guys now, which I think is ultimately exactly what Brian Dable, Joe Shane, and Mike Kafka had in mind.
That is what they had in mind. And I think one of the things I really like that you said there is they have so many pieces. Now it's just about putting it together. There's no one I trust more than Brian Dable to put that all together. I really think of him in the highest regard. I think he's an offensive guru, a genius on the offensive side of the ball, evidenced by what he did over in his time in Buffalo as an offensive coordinator. And really this past season working with Mike Kafka as his OC, I thought they got the absolute most out of a Giants offense that was really devoid of any talent whatsoever for the most part. There were some talented players out there, but we had practice squad receivers out there a lot of the time. We had Kenny Galladay sitting on the bench. There wasn't a whole lot of talent out there in the receiving corps for the Giants last year, but there's a lot more talent now. You got Darren Waller, who again is a tight end, but he's really an extension of the receiving corps. And then you have guys like Paris Campbell, who's been lighting it up at training camp. There's a lot more talent on this offense this year. And keep in mind, this offensive line should be taking a big step forward. And not only Evan Neal, who we just talked about, and the potential of him taking a big leap in year 2, but also the center position should be a night and day difference with this rookie John Michael Schmitz, who I think is going to make an immediate impact in his first season with the Giants. So things are looking up and up for the Giants offense right now, and I cannot wait. Preseason is only a couple weeks away now. We're only like 2 weeks away, less than from watching. I think we're 2 weeks away today from watching the Giants take the field against the Detroit Lions in preseason, and I cannot wait because a lot of these young guys that we just discussed, we're going to get to see them during the preseason, and that means that 2 weeks away from preseason, we're only 6 weeks away from the regular season. Wake me up in 6 weeks, man. I cannot wait. This is going to be a fun season. I really do believe that, and I think that this Giants offense is going to be one of the more fun offenses in the NFL to watch this year. So make sure you keep up with the Giants and keep up with us here on Fireside Giants as we continue to hype you up and get hyped about this Giants offense all summer long. So if you did enjoy this episode, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.